So first is gagawin natin yung course output, which is subnetting of networks. So to begin with, i-arrange natin yung number of hosts based on the highest to the lowest. So the highest is 900. Next is 765. Next is 350. Next is 150. Next is 125. And next is 50. So for routers 1 to 3, number of hosts is the same, which is 2. So for the network address, host 900 is 192.168.0.0. So ang CIDR is, since 900 hosts, so dito siya sa 1022. So CIDR 22/22. Ang theta is 0.0.0.4.0. So the next network address is of host 765 is 192.168 plus yung 4.0. So number of hosts is 765. So the CIDR is still 22 since hindi naman pwede yung 510/22 same theta. Next is 300 host 350, which is CIDR 23. Or first to the IP address would be, or network address would be 192.168.8.0, CIDR 23, and theta 0.0.2.0. So for the host 150, 192.168.8 plus 2, 10, 0, CIDR 24, theta is 0.0.1.0, 125 hosts is 192.168, that 10 plus 1 is 11, CIDR 25, and the theta is 0.0.0.128. For the host 50, 192.168.11.128, CIDR is 26, and the theta is 64, 0.0.0.64. And for router 1, 192.168.11.128 plus 64 is 196. Ang theta niya is, for the number of hosts, which is 2, so /30. Ang theta is 0.0.0.4. So for router 2, network address is 192.168.11.196 plus 4 is 200. 128 plus 64. Sorry, not. 128 plus 64 is 192. So So 192, and this is 196. Same lang din /30 ang CATR, and 0.0.0.4 ang theta. So for router 3, network address would be 192.168.11.200. Same CIDR for two hosts, which is 30 and 0.0.0.4 for the theta. For host 900, the first usable address would be 192.168.0.1, and the last usable is 192.168.3.254. Last usable address 192.168.3.255. So for host 765, the first usable address would be 192.168.4.1. Last usable would be 192.168.7.254. And last broadcast address would be 192.168.7.255. For host 250, first usable address would be 192.168.8.1. Last usable address would be 192.168. That 9.254, and broadcast address 192.168.9.255. For host 150, first usable address would be 192.168.10.1. Last usable address would be 192.168.10.254. And broadcast address 192.168.10.255. So for host 125, the first usable address is 192.168.11.1, and last usable is 192.168.11.126, and broadcast address is 192.168.11.127. For host 50, the first usable address is 192.168.11.129. The last usable address is 192.168.11. 190, and broadcast address is 192.168.11.191. For router 1, the first usable address is 192.168.11.193. And the last usable address is 192.168.11.194. Broadcast address is 192.168.11.195. For router 2, first usable address is 192.168.11.197. Last usable address will be 192.168.11.198. And broadcast address 192.168.11.199. For router 3, the first usable address would be 192.168.11.201. And last usable will be 192.168.11.202. And broadcast address will be 192.168.11.203. So for the addressing scheme, for router 1, we have FA0/0, FA0/1, SE0/0/0, SE0/0/1. So, copy lang natin to. So, for FA0 IP address is router 1 FA0 is host 350, which is PC2. So, the first usable address would be the IP address. And subnet mask host 350 is CIDR23. CIDR23 subnet mask is 255.255.254.0. 192.168.8.1. So for FA1, FA01, which is PC5, 125 host. 125 host, first usable IP is 192.168. 192.168.11.1. And subnet CIDR25. CIDR25 is equivalent to 255.255.255.128. And for SE0, SE0 is DTE. So the router 1 is DTE. So, ang gagamitin natin dito is the last usable IP. So for router 1, the last usable IP is 192.168.11.194. And since SE serial 01 is DCE, so gagamitin natin yung first usable IP, which is 192.168.11.193. SE0 is CIDR 30, so 255. The subnet mask will be this 255.255.255.252. Parehas lang. And then for FA0 ng router 2, FA0 ng router 2 is DCE. So, DCE, gagamit natin yung first usable IP address ng router 2, which is FA0. FA0 is 765 rather. 765 host. So the first usable IP address is 192.168.4.1. 192.168.4.1. And host 765 is CIDR 22. So the subnet mask is 255.255.252.0. And FA1 is host 150. Host 150, first usable address is 192.168. 192.168.10.1. 150 host. And 150 host is CIDR 24. CIDR 24, so the subnet mask is 255.255.255.0. For the SE0 of router 2, so since it's DCE, gagamitin natin yung first usable IP ng router 2. So 192.168.11.197. And for the subnet mask 30, 255.255.255.252. And router 2, SE01 is DTE, since nasa dulo siya. So, gagamitin natin yung last usable IP ng router 2. Router 2's last usable IP address is 192.168.11.198. And the subnet mask is the same, 255.255.255.252. For router 3, FE1, FE0, router 3, FE0 is PC or host 900. Host 900, first usable IP address is 192.168.0.1, and 900 host is CIDR 22. CIDR 22 is equivalent to 255.255.252.0, and FA01 is 50, host 50. Host 50's first usable IP is 192.168.11.129, and the CIDR 26. So CIDR 26 is equivalent to 255.255.255.192. For serial 0, router 3 is DCE. So this first usable address ng router 3 is 192.168.11.201, and SE0 That one is DTE. So it is the last usable IP, which is 192.168.11.202. So ang subnet mask ay same lang with routers 1 and 2. So for PC1, the IP address would be the last usable. So PC1 is host 765 and the last usable is 192.168.7.254. So 192.168.7.254 and the subnet mask is host 75 is host 765 is CIDR 22. So the subnet mask is 255.255.252.0 and the default gateway would be the first usable address. PC1 is 700 host 765. So the default gateway would be 192.168.4.1. 192.168.4.1. For PC2 is host 350. So the last usable IP would be the IP address 192.168.9.254. 192.168.9.254. Host 350 is CIDR 23, so the IP or the subnet mask is 255.255.254.0. And the first usable address of host 350 is 192.168.9.255. Our first usable rather is 192.168.8.1. 192.168.8.1. PC3 is host 50. Host 50, the IP address would be the last usable, which is 192.168.190. 192.168.11.190. And PC3 is host 50. Host 50 is CIDR 26. So the subject mask would be 255.255.255.192. And the first usable address of host 50 is 192.168.11.129. That 168.11.129. So for PC4 is host 150. So the last usable address will be the IP address. So 192.168.10.254. 168.10.254. Host 150 is CIDR 24. So the subnet mask would be 255.255.255.0. And the default gateway would be the first usable address. So the first usable address of host 150 is 192.168.10.1. 192.168.10.1. So for PC5, host 125, the last usable address will be the IP address. So it's 192.168.11.126, 192.168.11.126. Host 125 is CIDR25, so the subnet mask would be 255.255.128. And the first usable address or the default gateway of host 125 is 192.168.11.1. So for PC6, which is host 900, host 900's first or last usable IP address would be the IP address. It is 192.168.3.254, 192.168.3.254, and host 900 is CIDR22, so the subnet mask would be 255.255.252.0, and the default gateway, which is the first usable address of host 900, is 192.168.0.1. 192.168.0.1. So that's it for the subnetting table.